Hey, I'm Jake. I make RPG supplements and videos about Pathfinder 2, or PF 2. I love PF 2, and as a longtime player of D&D and other games, I want to share the things that I find along the way that are interesting to me, and hopefully in a way that makes them easy to understand and maybe even fun. Today I have for you Ursula the Sea Witch! Because Howl the Wild gave us Feats for a sea witch, but not a tentacled mermaid. What were you guys thinking? That's rhetorical, I don't care. We'll fix it here. I usually don't do this, but we're going to level 20 today, because usually I build a level 6 to get you started on a theme, and then you can use your own creativity from there with a really clear start. I also usually give a backstory, but on this one, if you've watched The Little Mermaid, you know the backstory. Hell, you probably know the whole character. So, just like a rough backstory synopsis of who she is. I'm sorry. In the movie, Ursula is a grumpy yet fabulous, deceitful manipulator. She creates magical contracts between merfolk and makes everyone default into eternal debt with her. So she morphs them into little plant monsters in her cavern because she's creepy, and she likes feeling powerful over her past victims. Interestingly, in the original script, they were going to make her the sister of King Triton, but cut it for some reason. Time? I guess? I kind of like that feel because it's more relatable and it gives Ursula more depth. She's been cast out of the kingdom by her brother for some reason. We can guess. She's kind of a jerk to people. Sees them as steps along the road of her conquests. She wants what she thinks she deserves, which is King Triton's trident and rulership, so she can rule over the whole ocean. She wants what she thinks she's owed, and she feels betrayed. I think we can all relate to that. So background. Here you could choose a number of things, including Lesser Scion. Like, that's the scenario I just described. She's the lesser, not as important, noble, ranking family member in a royal family. Or you could choose Hermit, because she lives in a little grotto by herself with her little garden monsters. But I chose Root Worker because it fit her overall witchy feel, letting you create minor talismans every day, and it gives occultism, which also made sense for her. It just kind of makes sense that she started off with a background of learning or having an instinct for natural magic. And that's how she came to be a witch. So for Ancestry and Heritage, Merfolk. Obviously, we couldn't very well have a sea witch who isn't comfortable in the sea, could we? And Heritage, I needed tentacles, so I went with Nephilim. Because evil things can have a look that's strange, and I choose freaking tentacles. That's why. First level Ancestry feat. I'm using Ancestral Paragon, so she actually gets 2 Ancestry feats at first level. One will be Wave Speaker, so she can talk to fishes. And the other is Grimspawn. It says, your lineage traces back to a daemon, one of the manifestations of horrific forms of death that devour souls within their foul home of Abaddon. As a result, you cling tenaciously to the last shreds of your own life force. You gain the Die Hard General feat. Plus, Die Hard just makes sense for Ursula. She just refuses to stay dead. So first class level, Witch. Ursula will take the resentment. I wanted to take something that was just from Howl the Wild, but the resentment is just too perfect for Ursula. She resents not being in power or on top where she belongs, and she hates King Triton and everyone else because it's all their fault that she isn't where she's supposed to be. Her familiar is an eel, obviously. Here's something that sucks. You can't take 2 familiars to have 2 eels, and you can't take a familiar and a pet. The familiar gives you the pet feat for the familiar. You could take an animal companion for an eel, but it has to be a giant eel. There's simply no way that I found to get 2 regular size eel pets or eel familiars. So we're just going to say that her familiar is actually 2 eels, Flotsam and Jetsam. And they'll just always occupy the same space and do the same things at the same time. I know it's messy, but it's done. It's forgivable, I think. Oh, and also, for this video, I have my Kraken ring and my Kraken earring because Krakens and tentacles and ocean and sea witch, that's why. So level by level breakdown. This is going to take a while because 20 levels. Second level class feat, witch's armaments, hair. But we're going to say that it's actually her tentacles again. For the feel. Second level free archetype feat, because free archetype, I'm always using free archetype, automatic bonus progression, and Ancestry Paragon in my games. Because the automatic bonus progression makes my freaking job easier as GM, and everything else just makes more fun. It gives you more options, more ways to branch out. You can make a more deep, rich character. It's fun. Anyway, so second level archetype feat. We're going to take the Flip It Contestant archetype because we have a ranged tendril-like natural weapon. I mean, a reach natural weapon. You can call it hair if you're being a stickler for the rules. But otherwise, for the rest of us, it's tentacles. Second level skill feat, Bon mot. Ursula is the queen of attitude, and it just makes sense that she could toss out a good put down. Insulting other people is just sort of the way she talks. Third level, general feat, fleet, because everyone wants to be faster. And merfolk suck on land, so we may as well increase the walk speed. Technically, right now, she has a walk speed of 5 feet, land speed of 5, that's right. Yeah. Third level Ancestry Paragon feat, Sea Song. This is mostly for the ability to sing normally, but because it gives you performance. But it also lets your voice carry just as well below water as it does above, which ensures that her commands or threats will be heard, if not necessarily obeyed. And it's also just this extra little bit of creepy that I like Ursula to be able to have, like her voice is coming from everywhere in the water so you can hear it really clearly. Fourth level class feat, Cauldron. She's a witch because Ursula has a cauldron and uses it to cast spells. She also has a myriad number of little glass bottles filled with all sorts of random spell components, so she makes magic brews. Seriously, she's called the Sea Witch. This is a must-have for this theme. Fourth level archetype feat, Flip It Contestant archetype, Lassoing Lash. It allows us to use our tentacles to pull someone to us, which is totally an Ursula thing, an Ursula thing. Whatever. Fourth level skill feat, Charming Liar. Because she's good at manipulating. If you prefer, you can take Quick Climber for a later feat, because she's got tentacles. And that'll come up later. You'll hear. Fifth level Ancestry feat, Strong Tail. Some Merfolk Ancestry feat lets us walk on land. In this case, it's on our tentacles, and it's at a speed of 20 because of fleet. Just not that shitty. You're a dwarf on land. Sixth level class feat, Greater Lesson, Lesson of the Shark. It's from Howl the Wild. It is at its most useful in the water, where it drags people down underwater and makes the water difficult to rain, so they can't swim out very well, so they drown. It also does spirit damage, but if you're not in the water, then why are you playing this build? But if you're not in the water, you'll want to pick something else for this level. In that case, I would take Lesson of Mischief for Deceiver's Hex, Magical Disguise, which is a perfect fit for her. You know, taking other people's forms and stuff. And Mad Monkeys, flavored as her eel friends, stealing shit and swimming all over someone to fuck up their spells. I think it could work. And sixth level archetype feat, we will take Powerful Lash. So now our lashing tentacle, hair tentacles, does 1d6 damage instead of 1d4 and has a sweep trait. So it's 1d6, 10 feet, sweep. And finesse, but whatever. This character has high strength and high con. Sixth level skill feat, Intimidating Glare. Seriously, she's just a scary bitch. Seventh level Ancestry Paragon feat, Nimble Hooves. Nimble Tentacles. It makes sense for the Daemon Ancestry thing. Her tentacles are just extra whippy wavy for 5 more feet of movement. So now we can finally move at 25 feet on land. At 7th level. 7th level general feat, Adopted Ancestry Leshy. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. In a few levels, you'll hear why. It is for a feat that fits the theme. I know it's weird that I have to go Leshy, but because they're a common ancestry now, I can choose Leshy, and so they have a power that is Ursula-ish, weirdly. 8th level class feat, Oozemorph Dedication. This is really just for one specific thing that's Ursula that I won't get to for a few levels, but in the meantime, there's some benefits. So, what it says in the dedication, you are plagued by sporadic anatomical rearrangements which grant you insights into other creatures with unusual anatomies. You become trained in occultism and ooze lore. This is the 3rd training in occultism she has, so you get to choose different things. If you were already trained, you become an expert instead. Who's already trained in ooze lore? You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to reflex saves to avoid being engulfed by creatures, and to checks to escape after being engulfed. Maybe useful. As you develop more abilities based on your amorphous affliction, you become increasingly off-putting to mundane creatures. You take a penalty to diplomacy checks against animals and humanoids. This penalty is equal to your number of class feats from the Oozemorph archetype to a maximum of -4 for 4 or more feats. I like that just is a manifestation of her being creepy and horrifying in reputation. Don't go see the Sea Witch. She will absolutely murder you. 8th level archetype feat, Disturbing Defense. Also from Oozemorph archetype. Your internal organs and blood vessels have shifted and changed, and even you don't know precisely where in your body they are. You gain resistance to precision damage equal to 2 plus your number of class feats from the Oozemorph archetype. The DC of your flat checks to recover from persistent bleed damage is 13 rather than 15. I know, again, minor stuff, but it's a little bit beneficial. Makes her a little bit more hardy and sturdy. Always max your con with this character. Just always. Just make her a monolith, an impenetrable barrier. She's a solid wall of seaful will. 8th level skill feat, Quick Coercion. She rapidly forces someone to do something they don't want to do. 1 round instead of a minute to coerce someone. She's manipulative as hell. It makes perfect sense. 9th level Ancestry feat, Skillful Tale. Just in case there were any arguments with our GM, this is from the Nephilim side. Now we can manipulate things with our tail, which we'll say is our tentacles. So our tentacles are useful for a lot of shit. 10th level class feat, Major Lesson, Lesson of Bargains. It gives you the most Ursula spell there is. Over the Coals Hex. It's a level 5 focus spell. It takes 2 actions to cast. Somatic verbal, range 120 feet. Targets 1 creature. Saving throw will. Duration varies. You accuse the target of breaking its word to you and invoke the wrath of your patron to claim what's due, demanding the target pay you in currency, fulfill an order, or stand down. The demand can't be obviously self-destructive or the spell fails. If the target resists, you take your payment from its life force. The target must attempt a will save. Regardless of the result of its save, the target is temporarily immune for 1 day. Critical success, the target is unaffected and is immune to your Pact Broker cantrips for 1 day. Pact Broker cantrip, whatever. It's immune to this for a day. Success. This is a success. If the target doesn't comply with your request by the end of its next turn, it takes 3d8 persistent negative damage. If it later complies, the spell automatically ends. Taking persistent damage on a success. Failure as success, but if the target doesn't comply, it is drained 1 and takes 6d8 persistent negative damage. By the way, this is Legacy. This is not after the remaster. I don't care. It's a great, great hex. Critical failure. As success, but if the target doesn't comply, it is drained 2, doomed 1, and takes 6d8 persistent negative damage. Even if the target completes your commands later, the spell doesn't end until all the conditions end. So they keep taking persistent damage until they remove doomed. Oh, so good. Oh, so good. 10th level archetype feat, Rubbery Skin. Come on, she's an octopus or squid. She has to have rubbery skin. It says your skin develops a malleable rubbery quality. You gain resistance to bludgeoning damage equal to 2 plus your number of class feats from the Oozemorph archetype. You also gain resistance equal to twice that amount to extra damage from critical hits. If the resistance is greater than the extra damage, it reduces the extra damage to 0 but doesn't reduce the attack's normal damage. Makes sense. Again, just making her more hardy. But the rubbery skin, this is the only thing that I could find that she could take with these ancestries that has rubbery skin. So she has that. 10th level skill feat. Magical crafting. She's a witch. Enough said. Besides, how do you make those contracts? 11th level general feat. Toughness, cause it's good. No, there's really no reason for it except that Ursula is big and imposing and seems like she'd have a lot of hit points. 11th level Ancestry Paragon feat. Spore Cloud from Leshy Ancestry. This is just the closest I could get to an ink spray via Ancestries or Heritages. If you want to more closely approximate it and you're okay using grafts, just take the Squid Ink graft. It's item level 5. Here's what the graft does. Sacs full of dark ink have been implanted inside your mouth, allowing you to spit it forth. Activate. Spray ink, 1 action, manipulate frequency once per day. Effect. You splatter ink in a 10-foot cone, covering creatures and revealing invisible ones. Each creature in the area must succeed at a DC 20 reflex save or become covered in ink. If a creature has its invisibility negated by this ink, it is concealed instead of invisible. A creature can negate the effects of the ink by spending 2 interact actions to wipe off the ink. Critical success. The target is unaffected. Success. The target's invisibility is negated for 2 rounds. Failure. The target is blinded for 1 round. Its invisibility is negated for 1 minute. Critical failure. The target is blinded for 10 minutes. Its invisibility is negated for 10 minutes. That part's great. If this graft is used underwater, you can instead choose to release the ink in a 10-foot emanation. The resulting ink cloud lasts for 10 minutes. All creatures in the ink cloud become concealed, and all creatures outside the ink cloud become concealed to creatures within it. That's what I really wanted. Here's what the Spore Cloud does. Frequency once per hour. It's a lot more frequently. You unleash a cloud of pollen or similar spores. All creatures in a 10-foot emanation around you must attempt a fortitude save using your class DC or spell DC, whichever is higher, with the following results. So already the DC is going to be better because it levels with you. Plants and fungi are immune to this effect. Who cares? Critical success, no effect. Success. The creature is dazzled for 1 round, which basically just means that they have to roll above a 5 flat check to target someone. Failure. The creature is dazzled and can see only 10 feet away for 1 round. That's cool. Critical failure. The creature is blinded for 1 round. Sure, they're not the same, but I try to create my builds by the rules with maybe a little exception taken for flavor and no items or gear of any kind because I want you to be able to replicate my builds, even if your GM's a dick. So take your pick. They're both cool. I would probably do both if I could. 12th level class feat. Familiar's eyes. It lets her see through her familiar's eyes, which is what she does in the movie, and so her little eels can go spy on people, and she never has to leave the lazy comforts of her creepy, riddled home. 12th level archetype feat. Uncanny suction. This is obviously from the Ooze Morph archetype. Your limbs produce strange sucker-like growths that allow you to adhere to walls, objects, and most other surfaces. You gain a climb speed equal to half your land speed, minimum 5 feet. If you have the quick climber feat, your climb speed is equal to your land speed. In addition, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to your reflex DC to avoid being disarmed. The main reason I took Ooze Morph at all was for this climb speed. It just makes sense to me that if she is half squid or octopus, she can freaking climb with her tentacles. And that's not a merfolk thing either. What? 12th level skill feat. Lie to me. It lets you use deception to detect lies, which means that she would be better at detecting lies because she's good at lying to people. Lying and manipulating is her thing. It just makes sense. And perception is not as good as deception. 13th level ancestry feat. Sea Witch. I really had to. It says you've studied, it's merfolk. It says you've studied the waves and they obey your will as extensions of your own fin or tentacles. You can cast Aqueous Orb and control water as 5th rank primal innate spells each once per day. Aqueous Orb drowns people, which is cool, and control water lets you raise or lower the level of water by 10 feet. which also slows any water creatures in the area. It gives a good watery flavor. Plus, like, you can make a common puddle deadly, because it's 10 feet. People could drown in that. Okay, not terribly deadly, but cool. You know, you can make people drown more easily. And if there's a water trap of any kind, you can make a huge region lower the water by 10 feet, maybe to save your allies' life. You are a sea witch, so, like, you should have power over water. This just makes sense to me. Speaking of power over water, 14th level class feat is Kineticist Dedication, Water. Because, like, yeah, it doesn't do a lot by itself, but 14th level archetype feat, it lets you summon a little bit of water. Or get rid of it. 14th level archetype feat, though, we take the Through the Gate archetype feat for deflecting wave impulse. It's a good defensive ability. You use a reaction to gain resistance to acid, bludgeoning, fire, or slashing damage. Now, the 14th level skill feat, we go with Glad Hand. You can switch around any of these skill feats you want. Maybe this one would be earlier, Glad Hand, because she's good at making a strong impression. That's all it is. Like, you are able to manipulate people faster. You can roll diplomacy when you first meet them instead of waiting for a full conversation. 15th level general feat. Canny Acumen for Fortitude to help her saving throws. Now her Fortitude save is going to be through the roof, because her con is always maxed. 15th level Ancestry Paragon feat, Shore Gift. Gives you a land movement rate of 25 feet, which is now 35 feet due to her other feats. This Merfolk feat says that you remove your tail, but in this case, she either takes on legs, because she's Ursula, or she just walks with her tentacles. Why not? She could do both. 16th level class feat. Effortless concentration, because you need it at this level. It just allows you to use a free action at the beginning of your turn to sustain one of your spells. It's nice. It's a spellcaster thing. That's it. Simple, but important. 16th level archetype feat, Advanced Element Control, Kineticist. Call the Hurricane. Massive waves spiral around you with you as the eye of the hurricane. The waves appear in a 20-foot emanation or a 30-foot emanation if you're in a body of water. Each creature in the area takes 6d8 bludgeoning damage with a basic reflex save against your class DC. A creature that fails its save is battered by the waves and pushed 10 feet or 20 feet under critical failure. And you can do this every other turn. And at this point, it does 10d8 damage. At 20th, it does 12d8. 16th level skill feat, Go with the Flow. It allows you to keep impersonating someone, like with Illusory Disguise, by tricking people into thinking that someone else is actually the imposter. It's a weird feat, but great. It's good. 17th level Ancestry feat, Kraken's Call. You call forth the sleeping krakens of the deep to crush your enemies. You open a dozen small portals to some lightless, watery abyss in a 30-foot burst within 120 feet. Huge range. The powerful tentacles of a kraken reach through to grab at each creature in the area. Each affected creature takes 8d6 damage depending on its fortitude save against the higher of your class DC or spell DC. You can sustain the call up to 1 minute. The first time you sustain it on each subsequent turn, each creature in the area not already grabbed by the tentacles must attempt the save. Because tentacles. No, really, I picture this being Ursula's own tentacles reaching out and grabbing people. Because, like, in the movie, she gets enormous. You could do that. It's, like, really big tentacles. 18th level class feat. Were creature dedication, Kraken. Yeah, it lets her shapeshift into an octopus. It doesn't do a lot for her, the dedication. One thing to keep in mind that it does do is it gives you the toughness feat. So you want to retrain the 11th level general feat to something else. So I'd probably go with Incredible Initiative for general combat purposes. Because it's a general feat, and general feats are generally for general usage. I used Wereshark as a template for this part because it has a swim speed and grapple and a bite. Squids have a beak, so why not? So just use shark and say it looks like a squid or a kraken. Everything it has is fine. 18th level archetype feat, Whirling Clobber in the Flip It Contestant archetype. lets you use a grabbed enemy to hit every enemy within reach. It's awesome. It's a 10-foot reach at this point. 18th level skill feat, Slippery Secrets. You elude and evade attempts to uncover your true nature or intentions. When a spell or magical effect tries to read your mind, detect whether you are lying, or reveal your identity, you can attempt a deception check against the spell or effect's DC. If you succeed, the effect reveals nothing. Kick-ass! Oh man, this would be fun to play. You know what? I think I found a place that I can include this in the adventure I'm currently running. I mean, as a bad guy, of course. I think I'll do that. I give away so much to my players in these videos. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to do that to you. Whatever. 19th level, we take Numb to Death, which is just like the next step of Die Hard. So the first time during the day that you are dying and you heal additional hit points equal to your level, which at this point is 19. And you also don't gain the wounded condition or increase it. First time. That's awesome. That's extra survivability. And, you know, if she's dying, she could have... Well, I guess familiars can't use potions. I have to figure out a way for her to get healing when she's down if she's by herself. I'll have to figure that out, because she's going to be a boss monster. She has to be. Anyway, Ursula has a stubborn will, and she doesn't go down easy, so I think that makes the most sense. 19th level Ancestry Paragon feat, Doom of Sailors. Frequency once per day. Merfolk. Sailors know that the sight of an angry merfolk might well mean that they never see the shore again. You sing a song that foretells the fate of a creature you can see within 60 feet. The fear that grips the target's soul causes 10d10 mental damage, depending on the target's will save against the higher of your class DC or spell DC. A creature who's in the water or on board a seagoing vessel takes a -4 circumstance penalty to its saving throw. Critical success, the target is unaffected. Success, the target takes half damage and is frightened 1 as it glimpses its demise. Failure, the target takes full damage and is frightened 1. In addition, it rolls twice for all skill checks and saving throws it attempts until the end of its next turn, and takes the worst result. This is a misfortune effect. That's great. Critical failure as failure, accept double damage and frightened 2. Granted, it's only against one person, but it's like an extra spell that damages one person and scares them and makes them have bad luck. It's great. It's very useful. It just expands your spell repertoire. 20th level class feat, Force of Nature. This is from the Were Creature archetype. You're a nigh unstoppable killing machine with only silver able to quell your rampage. When in hybrid or animal shape, you gain fast healing 5. If you take damage from a silver weapon, your fast healing deactivates until the end of your next turn. That's all it does. You just keep healing. 20th level archetype feat, from Were Creature archetype, Dire Growth. It's a level 10 feat, but it's awesome. You transform into a primal reflection of your animal shape. If you aren't already in your animal shape from Were Creature dedication, you change shape into it. And remember, in this case, it's an octopus. As long as you stay in animal shape, you have the effects of Enlarge. I mean, that's awesome, but Howl the Wild is, in some places, lacking some detail. Like, this doesn't say the level of the Enlarge spell, but the Enlarge spell increases to huge if cast as a 4th level spell, which I can only assume that it counts as when you're 20th level. At least that's how I would run it. That makes sense to me. So you'd be huge. 20th level skill feat, Reveal Machinations. You reveal that you played a minor but recurring role in another humanoid's life, or at least convince them that's the case. Attempt a deception check against the target's will DC. On a success, the revelation makes them frightened 2, and on a critical success, they're frightened 3. In addition, you gain information about the subject as though you had attempted to recall knowledge about them using an appropriate skill, and received the same result on your roll. It's weird. You can't use this ability against the same humanoid again until 1 day has passed, and you've also successfully disguised yourself as a different person. Special at the DM's discretion, this feat can be used against non-humanoids if they have regular contact with humanoids, or you are able to disguise yourself as a member of the target's ancestry or type of creature. It's the ultimate "it was me" reveal. It's great. And from the movie, it's the moment when she is like, the curse finally takes effect, the spell ends, and she just goes, "You're too late!" and shapeshifts. That's awesome. It's perfect. I'm drooling. I'm so happy. Final thoughts. So now you have a huge Kraken witch with a melee range of 20 feet, fast healing 5, buttloads of hit points, 248. You can grab someone and hit every enemy within 20 feet with that person. You can cause a hurricane that does 12d8 bludgeoning damage within 20 feet or 30 feet. You can do 8d6 damage in a 30-foot burst within 120 feet with tentacles. You have resistance to bludgeoning and precision damage, 6, and critical hits, 12, passively. You can use a reaction to gain resistance to bludgeoning and slashing damage, 20, or resistance to acid or fire of 40. That's not counting spells. This is a freaking monster. And importantly, you can use rituals and create contracts. Yes, contracts exist in Pathfinder 2. You'll have to make one up to fit a situation perfectly, but they do exist. So there's a basis for them. Just look up contracts on Archives of Nethys. The link for Archives is below. It always is. And there are some key elements to fit the Little Mermaid. Steal voice. It's a curse. On a critical fail, the target permanently loses their voice and you get to use it. It's an occult spell. She has it. Next one would be Cursed Metamorphosis / Baleful Polymorph, it used to be called. It lets Ursula transform people to little harmless creatures. Like her little garden. Mm-hmm. And to give Ariel legs, Incarnate Ancestry. It allows you to repick your ancestry feats or even entirely new ancestry, so she just became human. The links to all those things are below too. I had a lot of fun with this build. I hope you like it. Thank you for being here, and thank you to my lovely patron people. I release unique videos on Patreon, do giveaways, and we chat in our patron-only Discord. If you want to make sure to catch the next build I make, hitting the subscribe button is a good way to bookmark the page so you can remember to check back from time to time and see what I've done. This build's walkthrough is on the website, links in the description, and a PDF of this character's fillable character sheet is ready on that website too. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, then, like, I still love you. No, share it with somebody if you think they might like it. Now, remember, a fear of long words is called hippopotamonstrosesquipedaliophobia. But, since it's been so long since I made a build video, I have 2 remembers. And remember, Mahatma Gandhi walked barefoot most of the time, which produced an impressive set of calluses on his feet. He also ate very little, which made him rather frail, and with his odd diet, he suffered from bad breath. This made him a super-calloused fragile mystic hexed by halitosis. I'm not sorry. If you want to catch up on Howl the Wild, playlist is there, other builds there. Thanks. Mwah. Supercalifragilistic hexed by halitosis. Supercalifragilistic hexed by halitosis. Supercalifragilistic hexed by halitosis. Supercalifragilistic hexed by halitosis. Hum-diddly, 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 hum-diddly.